Generally for each book there will be a project editor, a proofreader and an indexer. There might be a technical editor as well that I have to commission. A lot of my job is just trying to foresee problems and mitigate them before they become problems, really.
Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another Wednesday, another interview with an industry professional. Today we have the lovely Jessica Cropper, who is an editor at David and Charles. I hope you enjoy.
It did take me quite a few years to get into publishing. I got in touch with lots of people, sent lots of emails, sent lots of letters, took work experience placements, 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there, at literary agencies, at educational publishers, basically anywhere I could that would take me. I eventually landed an 8-week internship at Quarto, which is a non-fiction publisher based in London, and that's how I got my first job, because just after I finished my internship the publicity assistant left and they got in touch to say would I like to come in for an interview. So I think it's just being in the right place at the right time, knowing people, getting to know people and trying to be as useful as you can really on your internships. So my day-to-day is pretty varied, really, because I'm working on lots of titles all at one time. Some books might be at the end of their cycle and some at the beginning. So I might be in one day working on the finalisation of a book that needs to be sent to print, and there might be a manuscript that comes in that needs to be edited. So there's always lots of different things to be working on. I never run out of work, which is nice. So generally what happens with the book is that it's commissioned by a commissioning editor, and then when it gets to me, it will be at the point where the contract's signed, we know what the book's about, we know who the author is, and then we have a planning meeting. So at the planning meeting, there will be the author, the commissioning editor, the designer, and me. And we just drill down in as much detail as possible exactly what the book's going to be about, exactly what's going to be in it, what's going to be on each page, how many chapters there are going to be, how many pictures are we going to have on each page, what's the aesthetic going to be. And we drill down in as much detail as possible at this planning meeting what the book's going to look like. I use this information to create the planning meeting notes, which we use as a reference point throughout the project. I create a budget and I create a schedule. I also decide which freelancers we should commission for the project, because we do use a lot of freelancers because we're quite a small team, we're quite a small company, and we publish a lot of books. Generally for each book there will be a project editor, a proofreader and an indexer. There might be a technical editor as well that I have to commission, depending on how technical the book is. I take each book on a case-by-case basis. I manage the schedules based on what each book needs. There are some books that I don't send out to freelancers, so I'll manage the editing and proofreading of those in-house. There will be little anomalies that come in, so there might be a book that we are going to give a refresh to, so we might be refreshing an old book because the topics come back into fashion, or we feel like it just needs a new cover, it just needs a proofread, or maybe we need to change a couple of chapters in it. So I'll manage all that in-house, but generally with our front list titles, we will follow the same format, really. A lot of my job is just trying to foresee problems and mitigate them before they become problems, really. And I also deal with the ebooks. So I just make sure that the ebooks are created and that they look okay and that they're in the right place, and so that the right people have what they need for everything. So I've worked in publishing for a few years, and I think the main thing I've learned over that time is just how small the industry is. I've had a few different jobs, and you tend to come across the same people over and over again. So you might go to an event and bump into someone who you used to work with, or someone you work with now you knows or used to work with someone, or an old colleague of yours, or there's all these funny connections that you come across in publishing that are quite fun. And you don't really ever lose touch with your old colleagues, which is really lovely, because I don't think I've really ever worked with anyone who's horrible and who I'd want to lose touch with, really. People are generally really kind and helpful and want to help people get into the industry. So I think being a part of that, it feels like a really nice community to be part of. People are really passionate about what they do, and people want to help other people get into publishing. So when someone reaches out to someone, I mean, I found when I tried to get into publishing, people were so willing to help me and read my emails and meet up with me and talk to me about how I can get in. Once you get into publishing, you kind of realise what a small, lovely industry it is, I suppose. I think the most challenging part of my job is just managing people, because you're managing a lot of different expectations, and when everything's going smoothly, it's fine, but when things go wrong, there can be a lot of problems when you're managing a schedule and there's lots of different people with their own workloads and their own things going on, and you're trying to get a book made by a certain date. So that can be a bit of a challenge, to be honest. So an interesting fact about my company is that it's gone from being not independent to independent, which kind of bucks the trend. I mean, at the moment, unfortunately, a lot of independent publishing companies are being bought up by these huge conglomerates. It seems like there's not going to be any independent publishing left. I mean, there is still a lot, but that's sometimes how it can feel. But my company went from being part of one of these huge conglomerates to being independent again. Career path after my role would probably be commissioning editor or managing editor or project editor, something like that. Someone who's got my job could probably go into project management. You could move out of publishing altogether and go into content management. So I think there's lots of different paths you can take within publishing in general. So I think with editorial, a lot of people want to be commissioning editors, and that's definitely somewhere you could go after my role.
Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you found it useful.